There is a truth that most people don't realize until it's too late. Life never stands still. The world is changing every single day. Technology changes. Markets change. People change. And while all of that keeps moving forward, many people remain standing still, believing that tomorrow will look just like today. But there is a very harsh rule of life that I learned early on. If you stand still, you're not really standing still. You are falling behind. Because life is like a powerful river in motion. If you're not swimming forward, the current will push you backward. I've seen this happen to so many people. People who were once very talented. People who once had great opportunities. People who once had extraordinary potential, but they believed that the skills of yesterday were still enough for today. They believed that their old habits would still lead them to success in a new world. And then one day they realize the game has changed. Someone younger appears with new skills. A new technology emerges and transforms the entire industry. A new opportunity appears, but it goes to someone who is better prepared. That's when they realize something painful. It's not that they weren't smart enough. It's not that they weren't talented enough. They simply stopped growing. You see, life doesn't reward you for what you did in the past. Life only cares about one question. Are you becoming better or slowly being left behind? The good news is this. You don't need to become the best person in the world to win. You just need to become a little better every day. One new skill, one new idea, one better habit. Those small improvements repeated every day can completely change your life. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 12 powerful principles that will help you keep moving forward in a world that never stops. These principles are not theory. They are the laws of personal growth, the ideas that have helped millions of people change their lives. Now, let's begin with the first principle. Principle Hajon, life never stands still. I want you to imagine something. Life is like a great river flowing with strong force. The water never stops. It is always moving, always going forward, and you are in that river. The question is not whether you want to move or not. The question is, are you swimming forward or letting the current pull you backward? Many people think that if they don't change, if they simply keep what they already have, everything will be fine. But life doesn't work that way. In a world that is moving, standing still is falling behind. I have seen this happen many times. There are people who were once very good in their field. They had experience. They had skills. They had achieved success. But then they started believing that what they had already learned was enough. They stopped reading. They stopped learning. They stopped trying new things. And while they were standing still, the world kept moving forward. A new generation appeared with new skills. A new technology emerged and transformed entire industries. New ideas appeared that changed the way people work. And suddenly, the things that once made them successful were no longer enough. Not because they became worse, but because the world moved further ahead. You see, life doesn't reward what you did last year. It cares about something much simpler. Are you becoming better today? I remember when I began my personal growth journey, I realized something very important. There is no such thing as long-term safety. Many people believe that if they find a stable job, a strong skill, or a comfortable position, they can keep it forever. But the truth is this. The only real stability in life is continuous growth. If you want to maintain your value in a changing world, you must keep growing. You must keep learning. You must keep improving yourself. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. You just need to become slightly better than yesterday. One new idea, one new skill, one better way of thinking. Those small steps, repeated every day, will create a massive gap between you and the rest of the world. And the interesting thing is, most people don't do this. They are satisfied with keeping things the same. They do familiar things. They think familiar thoughts. They live days that look exactly the same. And then years pass, and they wonder why their life never changed. But life always changes. They just didn't change with it. So, I want to ask you a very simple question. Today, are you moving forward, even just a little, or are you standing still and hoping the world will wait for you? Remember this. You don't have to be the best person in the room. But if you want to win in this life, you must do one thing. Always keep becoming better. Because in a world that never stops moving, the person who doesn't move forward will soon be left behind. And that leads us to the second principle, a simple principle, but one powerful enough to change your entire future. Principle 2. Small improvements compound. There is a mistake that many people make when they think about success. They believe success comes from big leaps. One big opportunity, one genius idea, one explosive moment that changes an entire life. But after years of observing people, I realized that life rarely changes that way. Big turning points are usually built from small steps. I call this the power of small improvements. You see, if every day you become just a little better, the results may not be noticeable immediately. One day, almost no difference. 1 week, still not much change. But when those small improvements are repeated every day, over many months and years, they begin to compound. And at some point, the gap between you and the rest of the world becomes very large. I often give a very simple example. Imagine that every day you read just 10 pages of a good book. Just 10 pages. It doesn't require much time. It doesn't require much money. It doesn't require a complicated plan. But think about it. 10 pages per day means about 3,600 pages per year. That's more than a dozen quality books. While many people spend their time on things that don't help them grow, you are quietly building your advantage. After a few years, you will have hundreds of new ideas, new perspectives, new skills. Not because you are smarter than others, but because you accumulated knowledge little by little. And this doesn't apply only to reading. It applies to every area of life. If you improve your communication skills just a little each week, over time you will become someone with strong influence. If you improve your work just a little every day, over time you will become the person people turn to. If you improve the way you think, the way you manage your time, the way you treat others, your life will gradually change. Not overnight, but through hundreds of small improvements repeated over time. Here's the interesting part. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day, but underestimate what they can do in 5 years. They want immediate results. They want rapid change. And when they don't see results right away, they quit. But winners understand something different. They understand that success works like compound interest. A small investment, repeated over a long period of time, can create massive results. A small habit, maintained every day, can completely transform a life. So the question is not, can you change your life today? The real question is, can you become just a little better today? Just a little. 1 page of a book, 1 new idea, 1 better habit. Because when you do that, every day your life will begin to change in ways you cannot imagine. And the most dangerous thing for that process is something that many people live in every single day. A place that feels very comfortable, very familiar, but also very dangerous. We call it the comfort zone. And that brings us to the next principle. Principle 3, comfort is the enemy of growth. Now I want to talk to you about something that sounds very comfortable but is actually one of the most dangerous enemies of growth. It's comfort. Sounds strange, right? Who wouldn't want comfort? A familiar job, a familiar schedule, things you can do without thinking too much. At first glance, it seems like a reward for your hard work. You worked hard, you achieved a certain level of stability, and now you think you can relax a little. But there is something I have observed after many years. The comfort zone rarely arrives as an obvious enemy. It doesn't come with alarm bells. There are no warning signs, nothing that makes you worried. It arrives quietly. It makes you feel safe. And before you realize it, you have stopped growing. This is exactly what makes comfort dangerous. It doesn't destroy your life instantly. It does it slowly, very slowly. You begin doing familiar things. You stop trying new things. You stop setting big goals. You stop asking whether you could become better. And while you feel perfectly fine with your life, the world keeps changing. A new technology appears. Someone younger, more ambitious, more willing to learn appears. A new opportunity appears, but it goes to the people who prepared better. And then one day you look around and ask, what happened? The answer is usually very simple. You stayed in your comfort zone for too long. You see, growth and comfort never go together for long. They are like 2 different roads. One road is easy. The other road is a little harder. But the harder road is where you become stronger. I often say this, growth always lives on the other side of discomfort. That's where you try something for the first time. That's where you accept that you're not good yet. That's where you learn a new skill, even when you feel awkward at the beginning. Think about an athlete. They don't become stronger by staying comfortable. They become stronger by training when their body is tired. Think about an entrepreneur. They don't grow by doing familiar things. They grow by accepting new challenges. Think about anyone you admire, an artist, a leader, someone successful in their field. You will see one common pattern. They do not live inside the comfort zone. They constantly place themselves in situations that demand growth. That doesn't mean you should eliminate all rest. Rest is necessary, but comfort should only be a temporary stop, not the place where you build your entire life. So I want to ask you a question. When was the last time you did something for the first time? When was the last time you tried something that made you a little nervous, a little afraid, but also made you feel truly alive? Because very likely, that is exactly where you will find a better version of yourself. And if you want to keep moving forward in a world that is always changing, you must learn an incredibly important skill. You must become someone who never stops learning. And that is exactly the next principle. Principle 4, stay curious and keep learning. There is a very powerful advantage in life that many people underestimate. It is not money, it is not natural talent, and it is not luck. It is the ability to keep learning. In a world that is changing faster than ever before, the person with the greatest advantage is not the one who knows the most today. It is the person who keeps learning the most every day. I have met many people in my life. Some of them were extremely intelligent. They performed very well in school. They had great degrees. They began their careers with tremendous potential. But then something strange happened. After leaving school, they stopped learning. They believed that education had ended. They believed that classrooms only existed in schools. But the truth is this: life itself is the greatest classroom. Every day brings a new lesson. You can learn from a book. You can learn from a conversation. You can learn from a mistake. You can even learn from a quiet moment when you reflect on your life. The question is not whether the lessons exist. The question is, are you still curious enough to learn? I realize that the most successful people always keep a very special attitude toward learning. They never leave the seat of the student. Even when they have achieved success, even when they have experience, even when they have reached positions that many people dream of, they still read books. They still listen. They still search for new ideas. Why? Because they understand a simple rule. The world always rewards people who have knowledge and skills. If you know more, you can do more. If you can do more, you become more valuable. And when you become more valuable, opportunities will begin to find you. This is what makes learning so powerful. It allows you to shorten time. You can read a book in a few hours and learn a lesson that took someone else 10 years to understand. You can listen to a talk and avoid a mistake that someone else paid a very high price to learn. You can learn from other people's experiences without having to repeat all of their mistakes. It is like walking across a bridge. The people who came before you built that bridge with their experience, and you simply walk across it. That is why I always say, winners are readers. They read to expand their thinking. They read to find ideas. They read to develop themselves. While many people are distracted by things that add no value, winners are quietly building their advantage. One new idea, one new skill, one new way of seeing life, and over time, all of it compounds. It makes you more confident. It makes you more adaptable. It prepares you for opportunities that others cannot see. But there is something you must remember. Learning cannot be something you do only once. It must become a lifestyle. You must make time for it. You must protect that time, even if it is only a few minutes each day. Because sometimes a single new idea is enough to change the entire direction of your life. So let me ask you a question. How much time are you spending each day developing your mind? What are you learning? What are you reading that helps you become better? Because in a fast-changing world, the person who stops learning will soon be left behind. But learning alone is still not enough. If you truly want to improve, you must do something else. You must be humble enough to see your blind spots. And that brings us to the next principle. Principle 5. Honest feedback creates growth. There is something interesting about personal growth that many people do not like to hear. You cannot improve what you are unwilling to face. You cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge. And that is why honest feedback is so important. But let's be honest with each other for a moment. Most people do not like feedback. They like praise. They like hearing that they are doing great. They like confirmation that everything is fine. But growth rarely begins with praise. Growth usually begins when someone tells you a truth that you do not want to hear. It might be a mentor. It might be a friend. It might be a colleague. They look at your work and say, "You can do better." In that moment, our first reaction is often defensive. We want to explain. We want to justify. We want to prove that we are not wrong. But over time, I realize something very important. If you always need to be right, you will never become better. The people who grow the fastest are the ones willing to hear the truth. They do not see feedback as an attack. They see it as a gift that helps them see the blind spots they cannot see on their own. You see, every one of us has blind spots, habits we do not notice, mistakes we repeat, ways of thinking that limit our potential. And without feedback, we might repeat those patterns for years. But when someone gives you honest feedback, They are giving you an opportunity to adjust, an opportunity to become better. Feedback is not always easy to hear. Sometimes it feels like sandpaper. It can make you uncomfortable. It can challenge you. But that discomfort is what sharpens you. I remember many times in my life when someone pointed out my weaknesses. At first, I reacted like many people do. I wanted to explain. I wanted to defend myself. But after a while, I began to realize that if I truly wanted to grow, I had to learn how to listen. Because feedback does not only come from people, it also comes from the results in your life. If your work is not progressing the way you hoped, that is feedback. If your relationships are struggling, that is feedback. If you feel stuck, that is also feedback. Life is always sending signals. The question is, are you listening? One of the wisest things you can do is learn to ask, what could I do better? That single question can open doors you never saw before. But you must also learn another skill. Not all criticism is valuable. Some words come from negativity. Some come from jealousy. So you must learn to do two things. Listen with an open mind and choose with wisdom. Take what helps you grow. Ignore what does not help. But never completely close the door to feedback. Because the person willing to face the truth about themselves always has a huge advantage in life. And when you combine feedback with something else, something very important, your progress begins to accelerate. That thing is disciplined practice. And that brings us to the next principle. Principle 6. Mastery comes from practice. Now, I want to talk to you about something that most people love but very few are truly willing to do. Everyone loves the idea of excellence. Everyone wants to be great in their field. Everyone wants to reach the top. Everyone wants recognition. But there is a very simple truth. Excellence is not something you find. It is something you build. And the most powerful tool for building it is practice. Many people look at successful individuals and believe they have some special talent. They think those people are simply luckier, or they believe those people have some secret that others do not know. But when you look closer, you see what truly stands behind their success. Thousands of hours of practice. An athlete does not become excellent just because they play one great game. They become excellent because of thousands of hours of training when no one is watching. A musician does not become great because of one performance. They become great because of thousands of repetitions of the same piece. An entrepreneur does not become successful because of one idea. They become successful because of thousands of small decisions and thousands of lessons from mistakes. I remember the first times I started speaking in front of an audience. If you had seen me then, you probably would have laughed. I was nervous. I was awkward. I was not sure what I was doing, but I kept practicing. I spoke to small groups. I learned from my mistakes. I adjusted little by little. And over time, what once felt difficult began to feel natural. That is how all progress happens. Repeat, adjust, repeat. But there is something very important you must understand. Motivation is not always there. Some days you feel full of energy. You want to work. You want to learn. But there are also days when you do not want to do anything. That is where discipline enters. Discipline is what keeps you going when motivation disappears. Discipline is what makes you practice even when no one is watching. Discipline is what pushes you forward when things become boring or difficult. Many people search for shortcuts. They ask, is there a faster way? Is there a secret that will help me succeed quickly? But the truth is this, there are no shortcuts to mastery. The only path is work, repeat, improve a little at a time. And here is the interesting part. When you practice long enough, what once felt difficult becomes natural. What once scared you becomes familiar, and your skill begins to shine in a way others can see. But do not be mistaken. Those shining moments are only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath them are thousands of hours of practice. So ask yourself an important question. In your life, which area deserves more practice? It might be your work. It might be your health. It might be the way you communicate with others. Whatever it is, give it time. Practice it. Improve it. Because when a big opportunity appears, and it will appear, you want to be ready. You want your skills to be sharp. You want your habits to be strong. You want to be the person who can capture that opportunity. But there's another factor that strongly influences your growth. Sometimes it is even more powerful than discipline or talent. It is the people you spend time with. And that brings us to the next principle. Principle 7, your environment shapes you. Now I want you to think about something very simple. Look at the people you spend the most time with. Your friends, your co-workers, the people you talk to every day. Because whether you realize it or not, those people are shaping your future. The influence of your environment is far stronger than most people think. The attitudes of the people around you, their habits, the way they think about life, all of these things gradually sink into you. Not instantly, but over time. If you spend time with people who are always looking for ways to grow, you will begin to think like they do. You will begin to set higher standards. You will begin to see opportunities you never considered before. But if you spend time with people who are always complaining, people who are always making excuses, people who are satisfied with standing still, then what do you think will happen? Most likely, you will begin to shrink your own ambition. You will begin to accept limits that you once did not believe were real. I learned this lesson very early in my life. When I started wanting to change my life, one of the first things I had to do was look at the environment around me. I asked myself, are the people I spend time with moving forward, or are they standing still? There were people in my life who were wonderful. They were kind. They were loyal. But they did not have the same desire for growth. They were content with keeping everything the same. And I realized something important. If I wanted to go further, I had to spend more time with people who were moving in the direction I wanted to go. That does not mean you should look down on other people. It does not mean you must leave every relationship behind. But you must understand one thing. Your environment is not something you inherit. It is something you choose. You can choose to stay close to people who inspire you. You can choose to learn from those who have gone before you. You can choose to spend time with people who make you think bigger, people who make you push harder, people who will not allow you to live below your potential. One of the fastest ways to grow is to place yourself in rooms where you are not the smartest person. If you are always the smartest person in the room, you are probably in the wrong room, because when you are around people who are better than you will be forced to grow, you will be forced to learn, you will be forced to raise your standards. Even if you cannot meet those people in person, you can still reach them through books, through talks, through the ideas they share with the world. Let those people become your mental environment, because over time, you will begin to resemble the people you spend the most time with, not only in the way you think, but also in the results you create in life. So ask yourself a very important question. Are the people around you lifting you higher or keeping you in the same place? Because the right environment can accelerate your growth, but the wrong environment can slow it down for years. And once you have chosen the right environment, you need one more thing to truly move forward in life. A feeling that many people lose over time. That is a sense of urgency to grow. And that brings us to the next principle. Principle 8. Urgency creates momentum. There is a very dangerous trap that many people fall into in life. It does not arrive as a major failure, not as a hard shock, not as a sudden event. It arrives in one very familiar word. Someday I will start reading more. Someday I will learn that skill. Someday I will change my life. But there is something you need to understand. Life does not operate on the word someday. Time keeps moving. Today becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next month. And before you realize it, years have passed. I have met many people with wonderful intentions. They want to grow. They want to improve themselves. They want to do something greater with their lives. But they always think there is still plenty of time. They think they can start later. But the truth is this: delay has a price. Every day you postpone your personal growth, the distance between you and a world that is moving forward becomes a little greater. Not immediately, not in an obvious way, but over time, that gap begins to grow. And then one day you look back and ask yourself, how did everything change so fast? The truth is, everything did not change fast. You just delayed for too long. I learned an important lesson about this. People who succeed in life usually have one thing in common. They have a bias toward action. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They do not wait for complete confidence. They do not wait for everything to become clear. They begin, even when they are not ready, even when they still have much to learn, even when the road ahead is not completely clear, because they understand a simple rule. Action creates momentum. When you start moving, things begin to change. Ideas begin to appear. Opportunities begin to open. New people begin to enter your life. But all of that happens only after you begin, not before. Many people want clarity before they act, but in life, clarity usually comes after you have taken action. You begin, you try, you adjust, and over time, the path becomes clearer. The most important thing is not to wait too long, because every year that passes without growth means you will have to do two things at once. You will not only have to move forward, you will also have to catch up. So ask yourself a question. Is there something in your life that you have been telling yourself you will do but still have not started? a book you want to read, a skill you want to learn, a goal you want to pursue. Maybe today is the day you should begin. It does not need to be perfect. It does not need to be huge. It just needs to be one small step. Because one small step today is worth far more than a big plan you will start someday. When you begin taking action every day, something interesting happens. Those small steps begin to connect. They create momentum, and that momentum can carry you much farther than you imagine. But to sustain that momentum, you need something very important. Something even more powerful than inspiration. That is consistency. And that brings us to the next principle. Principle 9, consistency beats motivation. Now I want to talk about something that many people misunderstand when it comes to success. They think success comes from motivation. One day they wake up with a powerful burst of inspiration. They feel full of energy. They decide that from today on, everything will change. They start reading. They start exercising. They start working harder. And for the first few days, everything goes very well. But then something familiar happens. Motivation begins to fade. Life gets busy. Fatigue appears. And the good habits they started gradually disappear. I have seen this happen many times. That is why I always say, motivation is wonderful, but it is not reliable. Motivation is like the weather. Some days are sunny, some days are rainy. Some days you feel incredibly excited. Some days you do not want to do anything at all. If your life depends entirely on inspiration, you will move forward a little, then stop, then start over again. But the people who truly go far in life understand something different. They do not build their lives on motivation. They build them on consistency. Consistency means you keep doing the right thing even when you do not feel like doing it. You read a few pages even when you are tired. You work on your goal even when the day is not perfect. You keep your habits even when motivation has disappeared. This is exactly where major changes in life are created. Not on the days when you feel amazing, but on the ordinary days. The days no one sees. The days when you still keep doing the small things that move you forward. Think about someone planting a tree. If they water it only when they feel inspired, the tree will never grow. But if they water it every day, even just a little, over time, the tree will grow. Your life works the same way. Small actions, repeated every day, create big results. One small workout, one new idea, one meaningful conversation, one better decision. Over time, those things add up. And one day you look back and realize that you have come much farther than where you started. But it is important to understand that consistency does not mean perfection. There will be days you miss. There will be days you make mistakes. There will be days when things do not go according to plan. What matters is not that you never fail. What matters is that you always return. You keep moving forward. You do not quit because of one difficult day. Because in the end, life does not reward perfect people. It rewards persistent people. People who keep walking. People who keep improving themselves. People who keep showing up every day. And when you do that for a long enough time, something interesting begins to happen. You do not just change your actions. You begin to change who you are. You begin to become the kind of person who can achieve greater things. And that leads us to the next principle. Principle 10, upgrade your identity. There is something very interesting that I realized after many years of working with people. A lot of people try to change their lives by changing their goals. They say, I want to make more money. I want to be more successful. I want to have a better life. Those goals are not wrong, but they are often not where real change truly begins. Real change begins in a much deeper place. It begins with your identity. You see, each of us carries an image in our mind of who we are. You may not say it out loud, but you believe it. Some people believe, I'm not a disciplined person. Some people believe, I'm not good at business. Some people believe, I'm not the kind of person who succeeds. Those beliefs become invisible limits because people tend to act in ways that are consistent with how they see themselves. If you believe you are someone who procrastinates, you will keep procrastinating. If you believe you are not good at communication, you will avoid situations that require communication. If you believe success is not for you, you will never truly go after it. That is why changing your goals alone is not enough. You must begin changing the way you see yourself. Think about an athlete. They do not just train, they begin to think of themselves as an athlete. They eat like an athlete, they train like an athlete, they live like an athlete. Their identity guides their actions, and their actions create their results. This is also true in any area of life. If you want to become successful in your work, you must begin seeing yourself as a professional. If you want to become a healthy person, you must begin seeing yourself as someone who takes care of their health. If you want to become a leader, you must begin thinking like a leader. When identity changes, actions begin to change with it. The small decisions you make each day will begin to align with the person you are becoming. And over time, those actions create results. Those results then reinforce your new identity. That is a powerful loop. But it starts with one simple decision. The decision that you will no longer see yourself in the old way. You will begin building a new version of yourself, not instantly, not perfectly, but one step at a time. Each day, you make one small decision that matches the person you want to become. You read a book, you learn a skill, you work a little harder. Those actions are like bricks. And brick by brick, you are building a stronger version of yourself. So ask yourself one question. Are you acting like the person you are right now, or like the person you want to become? Because when you upgrade your identity, something very interesting happens. You begin looking for things that help you grow faster. You begin investing more in your mind. And that brings us to the next principle. Principle 11, invest in your mind. There's an investment that anyone can make. You do not need to be wealthy to begin. You do not need special connections. You do not even need a perfect start. But if you make this investment seriously, it can completely change your life. That investment is in your mind. You see, your income rarely rises above the level of your personal growth for very long. If you want to earn more, you must become more. If you want to reach greater opportunities, you must become the kind of person who is worthy of those opportunities. And all of that begins with how you feed your mind. I often say this. Successful people have one very simple habit they make time to learn. They read books. They listen to inspiring talks. They search for new ideas. They learn from people who have gone before them. While many people spend most of their time on things that bring only short-term entertainment, successful people are quietly building their advantage. Every book they read gives them a new idea. Every conversation gives them a new perspective. Every lesson they learn helps them see the world in a different way. Over time, those ideas begin to connect. They create clarity. They create confidence. They create the ability to see opportunity where others only see problems. One book may not change your life in a single day, but one right idea at the right time can change your entire direction. I have seen that happen many times. A person reads a book and realizes they have been thinking too small. A person listens to a talk and realizes they are capable of more. A person meets a mentor and realizes their life could be much bigger than they ever imagined. Those moments often begin with something very simple, a new idea. That is why investing in your mind is the investment with the greatest return. Money can come and go. Opportunities can change. But what you learn stays with you. It becomes part of the way you think, part of the way you make decisions, part of the way you build your future. So ask yourself an important question. How much time are you spending each week developing your mind? What are you reading? What are you learning? What ideas are you exposing yourself to? Because your mind is like a garden. If you do not intentionally plant good seeds, weeds will grow on their own. But if you take care of that garden, if you plant the seeds of knowledge and good ideas, over time you will harvest remarkable results. And when you combine learning, discipline, the right environment, and consistency, life begins to change in very interesting ways. You begin opening doors that you could not see before. You begin attracting opportunities that you once thought were not meant for you. Because in the end, the journey of personal growth does not just change what you do, it changes who you become. And that brings us to the final principle, Principle 12, the reward of becoming more. Now, we arrive at the most beautiful part of this entire journey, the part that many people do not see when they begin. When you decide to grow, when you decide to become a little better each day, life begins to change in very interesting ways. Not only because you achieve more, but because you become more. You see, many people think success is only about money, titles, or status. But after many years of observing life, I realized that the greatest reward of personal growth is not what you get. The greatest reward is who you become in the process. When you commit to improving yourself every day, something remarkable begins to happen. Your world begins to expand. Doors you did not see before begin to appear. Opportunities you once thought were for other people begin to come your way. Not because you are luckier, but because you are better prepared. When you learn, you become more knowledgeable. When you practice, you become more skilled. When you build discipline, you become stronger. Little by little, you build a better version of yourself. And that begins to change the way other people see you. They begin to trust you more. They begin to listen to you more. They begin to see value in what you bring. But even more important is the way you see yourself. When you know that you have put in the effort, when you know that you have learned, when you know that you did not give up, a very special kind of confidence begins to form. Not loud confidence, not confidence based on words, but confidence that comes from preparation. You step into a new challenge and think, I may not have all the answers yet, but I know I can learn. That is the kind of confidence no one can take away from you. And there is one more beautiful thing that happens when you keep growing. You begin helping other people. You become a source of inspiration for those around you, not because you are perfect, but because they see your effort, they see your journey, they see that if you can change, they can too. That is the greatest gift you can give to the world, the example of your own life. So if there is one message I want you to remember after this video, it is something very simple. Life will always keep moving forward. The world will always keep changing. The question is not whether change will happen. The question is, are you growing with it? You do not need to become the best person in the world. You only need to become a little better than you were yesterday. Just a little each day. One new idea, one new skill, one better decision, and over time, those small steps will lead you to places you never imagined. Because in the end, the rule of life is very simple. If you become better, your life will become better too. If today's principles meant something to you, remember this. Personal growth is not an event that happens in one day. It is a journey that happens every day. A book you read, a habit you build, a better decision you make. Each of those small steps is shaping who you are becoming. If you want to keep learning deep lessons like these from the philosophy of Jim Rohn, subscribe to the Jim Rohn Treasures channel so you do not miss the next videos. And I also want to ask you one question before you leave. Out of the 12 principles today, which one touched you the most? Share it in the comments section. I would truly love to know where you are on your growth journey. Remember this, you and I both have a gift. That gift is today. Use it to become a little better than you were yesterday. And I will see you in the next video.